Oulton Park has become a rather wet Oulton Park as we get set for the third race of the weekend in the GB3 Championship in association with the BRDC. And it was a race that potentially could have offered up a championship to Zach O'Sullivan, but he didn't finish race 2, he didn't score, and it means that he has a tough call ahead of him going into this race, but with very wet weather conditions for the drivers now to have to cope with. Anything could happen. Now, this is the reverse grid race as well. You get championship points, plus there are points on offer for the number of cars you overtake, for the improvement from your grid to finishing position. So there's a lot here that Zach O'Sullivan could do to earn points. We'll see. But as the cars make their way round to the grid, it is wet Pirellis for just about everybody with the yellow sidewall. And I can't imagine anybody is going to be bold enough to roll the dice, because the weather forecast has been saying rain from about 3 o'clock. Well, it came a little bit after that, but it certainly came. And also we have been hearing all day that once it's here, then it is going to stay for the afternoon. Now, race 2, we thought Bart Horston had won because he was running at the time of the stoppage and Roberto Faria and Luke Browning were deemed not to have been. Well, actually, Luke Browning was running at the time of the stoppage. So this is the incident. So Roberto Faria on the outside of Luke Browning. That's for the race lead. Contact between the two. Faria goes off to the inside of the circuit towards the tar barrier. Bang. But Luke Browning, after his big spin, did rejoin. So there, he does get going. Now, in all the excitement, it was rather assumed that Luke Browning hadn't got going, but he did dig himself off the grass. He did circulate, and therefore he was running at the time of the red flag. You go back to the last lap completed by everybody, so he was the race winner, not Bart Horston, as we were all saying at the time. The general assumption, guilty as charged, was that Luke Browning had also stopped. But no, he did move, and therefore was put back into the race results, and therefore took a win. Luke Browning in his first weekend in the championship. Now, reverse grid race is going to have 2 green flag laps, and it will be a maximum of 20 minutes, bearing in mind that the earlier race was a 10-lapper because of the red flag, and that got us to 15 minutes and change. And it's Mikkel Grundtvig, Donington winner, on pole position on his wets, and there also on wet rubber is Bryce Aaron lining up alongside him. Jonathan Brown starts 3rd on the grid for hill speed, wets of course for him. And then lining up 4th on the grid, he's going to be double winner this year, Roman Belansky, who has done a part season, but Roman Belansky has come into the championship very impressively indeed, and he is another driver on wet tyres. So there, as the grid is formed, they will get one final formation lap before the start of the race, and Brandon Oxley, Sebastian Alvarez on the next row of the grid. Zach O'Sullivan has got to be inside the top 7 to have any chance of this championship in this race, and that depends, of course, on the results of others. So the green light, the green flag, and now the cars accelerate away. 2 laps they will have in these conditions, the first wet running of the weekend. Cars they're now making their way down to Cascades. For the grid, Mikkel Grundtvig is on pole position. Bryce Aaron lines up 2nd. It is Fortek and Carlin at the front of the grid, ahead of Hillspeed and Arden, Jonathan Brown and Roman Bielinski on row 2 of the grid. The 3rd row, Brandon Oxley for Chris Dittman Racing, and for High-Tech, Sebastian Alvarez. A real mix of teams at the front of this grid, ahead of Frederick Lubin, also for Arden and Elite Motorsports. Tom Levin lining up 8th. 9th on the grid is Rhys Ushijima, double winner this season. And then 10th on the grid, Javier Sagrera in the Elite Motorsport entry. 11th is where you find Carlin's Christian Mansell, and then fellow Australian Bart Horston is next on the grid. And then Roberto Faria and Ayrton Simmons for Fortek and CDR respectively next in the queue. 15th is where you will find earlier race winner Luke Browning. Zach O'Sullivan heading for a championship potentially, 5 race wins to his name now. He lines up next on the grid, and then it's Rima Jafali at the very back because she qualified relatively slowly and therefore did not take advantage of that reverse grid. She was outside the qualification maxima. So 2 green flag laps as the cars make their way down towards Hislops. And not only do they have the wet road to contend with, but they've also, of course, now got, certainly towards the back of the grid, the problem of the spray and visibility to have to factor into all of this as well. So life is going to be pretty tough, I fear, for some of them over the course of the next 13 laps. There's no reduction to the race duration. The only thing that might affect it is an incident in the stoppage, or of course the fact that it's just slower and it takes you closer to the 20 minutes. Everybody in this championship with the same Tatius Mount-Hewn chassis and engine combination. This race, under the championship regulations, with fewer points on offer, 20 for a win rather than the 35 in the first two races, but you then gain points for extra places gained. So if you are, for example, Zach O'Sullivan starting 16th and you make really good progress, there is an extra point for each car that you pass. And the fans that are out in good numbers, it's pleasing to see at Oulton Park today, are now underneath their umbrellas getting set for this race. They're the green flag shown as the cars come over the line, and they will then make their way up towards Old Hall Corner. And now you get an idea of what the spray is like. This is at a relatively low speed, and that spray hanging in the air as the last few cars come over the timing line, and then on this 2.7 kilometre circuit up towards the grid they will form. So pole position to Mikkel Grundtvig, who has been a race winner in one of these equivalent reverse grid races. That was at Donington, going back to the summer. Mikkel Grundtvig, who was last year's Danish Endurance Championship class champion, and a very rapid driver, he's beating that. Prior to that, he drove in the F4 Danish Championship, and continuing the single-seater pedigree by coming into the UK's single-seater scene this year. Then we have, on second rank on the grid, 23, Bryce Aaron, the 17-year-old American driver. He's been racing in Formula Ford for a couple of seasons. We've seen him at the Formula Ford Festival, the Walter Hayes Trophy, and also drove in the Champion of Brands last year, the Formula Ford National Championship, the Castle Combe Championship. So he was trying to learn about British circuits and the weather, which will stand him in good stead right now. Bryce Aaron's had a tough season, though, and finds himself then down in the championship standings, but for this race, the outside of the front row of the grid. And let's see if there is progress to be made out of all of this, and whether a first victory might possibly go his way. You could argue that it's a reverse grid race, it's not quite as meritorious, but from a driver's point of view, a win is a win. A 14th and an 8th across the two races thus far this weekend for Bryce Aaron. Mikkel Grundtvig, who is the man on pole position, yesterday took a 16th place, and he had an 11th earlier on today. Jonathan Brown lines up third on the grid. Jonathan, who has been another late arrival to the championship, but the hill speed driver, was the runner-up in the Formula Ford Festival last year, won it 2 years ago, and he very nearly got caught up in somebody else's dramas in this morning's race. He was 12th yesterday, but still 9th earlier on today. Of those that we're looking at from the rear making progress, well, we've got Zach O'Sullivan with a win and a retirement to his name. Luke Browning with an exclusion and a win yesterday because the car disqualified after the underfloor plank was deemed to have been worn away too much. Ayrton Simmons has had a second and a fourth. He's one to watch. Roberto Faria had retirement this morning but got a third out of yesterday's race. Bart Halston thought he'd had his maiden victory, so really disappointed. So fourth and a second, his results of the weekend. Christian Mansell comes into this with a fifth and a third as his weekend's work, as the last few cars now make their way up towards the grid. There is Mikkel Grundtvig then to take pole position. The drivers are set. They will in a moment concentrate on the lights, and of course Mikkel Grundtvig on the front of the grid, the pioneer to discuss and then discover the grip levels. The lights go out, we go racing. He makes a good start. Bryce Aaron does not. He gets bogged down and slithers his way off the line. So the front row squandered as they're around the outside of him goes Tom Levin. The bright yellow car of Javier Sagrera makes a good start up the inside as they dive into the spray. And so far, everybody's got through Old Hall Corner safely, which is a relief, and it is Grundtvig in the lead as they drop downhill with Roman Bielinski in second place, and out wide goes Grundtvig. Bielinski will not get an easier pass than that. Through he goes, up on the inside line. Roman Bielinski it is that leads then as the cars accelerate along Lakeside Straight for the first time in this 13-lap race, and so now it is Grundtvig that sits in the spray. But Bielinski is the man who's got to find the grip on each and every corner, certainly for the first lap or two as tyres get up to temperature. Jonathan Brown to the outside of Grundtvig goes wide, and also in the mix there, Brandon Oxley sideways in the Chris Dittman racing car, the black, yellow and red entry, and there two spin coming out of Shell. One was high-tech, one was Fortec, looking at the colours. So which was the better placed of the high-tech cars? Risa Shijima it was, I fear, from the 9th spot on the grid. The rest battle their way. There's Christian Mansell around the outside, and that is Bart Horston, in fact, who's had the spin. So it was a high-tech car, but Bart Horston, the rotator, and he wasn't the only one involved in that. So it's going to be a slightly jumbled order, I think, at the end of this lap as the cars come out of Hislop's up towards Knickerbrook, the right-hander. Up the curb goes Christian Mansell there. And the field accelerates towards Druids Corner with Christian Mansell trying to gain ground, also having to tiptoe through and, just like everybody, find some grip. The Pirelli wets cut through the water. It is Roman Bielinski that leads the way, and Ayrton Simmons up to 12th. Bryce Aaron's had a shocking first lap from the front row. He's down in 13th place at that middle sector, and I would say the weather is getting worse and worse here. The rain pretty much set in, and it continues to fall as the cars come now down through Lodge Corner. Javier Sagrera pierces the gloom. That bright yellow car. There, Zach O'Sullivan, aiming for the championship on his father's birthday, picks up another place. Goes through now, and the field turns through Old Hall Corner with up front right now Roman Bielinski ahead of Mikkel Grundtvig. It's Jonathan Brown third. It is Brandon Oxley fourth. Sebastian Alvarez runs fifth. Sixth is Frederick Lubin. Javier Sagrera is seventh. And then in eighth place, Tom Leben. Ninth is Zach O'Sullivan. Now that's not a bad first lap, is it? 16th to 9th in a lap. And then to round out the top 10, Risa Shijima. So as I say, he did escape from the spin. Those that were in strife were, by the look of it, Luke Browning, who's not got going again, and Bart Horston. And Christian Mansell's had a drama out of our view, because we saw him going out of Knickerbrook and he was okay, but he's come through in penultimate place. So it's not a good lap for the Australians. They are penultimate and last, and Luke Browning is into the pit lane now. So after his spin up at Shell, he's come into the pit road, and there's one of the drivers up from the back of the grid, a winner earlier on in the day, in real strife. But there'll be a lot of nervous teams watching this, not only in the context of GB3, but also British GT, which races next, because weather is worsening all the time. And as the leaders paddle their way now down towards Hislop, Zach O'Sullivan comes up there to have a go at Tom Leben on the inside line. O'Sullivan 16th to 8th now. This is relentless. This is only a lap and a half in, and he's passed half the field. This is mighty impressive, isn't it? So not only is he heading for championship points, every car he overtakes gets him a bonus point. Up towards Druids now. O'Sullivan for Carlin, driving well, keeping out of trouble. The further up the order he gets, the harder it becomes to get through the traffic, but let's see what he can do. Out of Druids, down towards Lodge Corner. The spray hangs in the air. Of course, one of the joys of Oulton Park is how picturesque it is. The downside is with all the trees, that sort of keeps the spray hovering over the circuit, so it never really disappears properly. There it is on the pit straight. Roman Bielinski leads the way then. It's been a good season for Roman, part season admittedly, but when he came into the championship he was immediately quick. He had a win at Spa, he had a win at Snetterton, and he leads here by over 2 seconds, and that is Luke Browning done. His old British F4 overalls as he gets out of the car, but his day done. So exclusion yesterday, a win today, and then a retirement. Had pretty much every emotion. Race leaders dive into the spray once again, onto leg side straight now. And Roman Bielinski 2 seconds to the good over Mikkel Grundtvig last time, but as the rain gets heavier and the track gets ever wetter, it's even harder, barring a mistake from the guy ahead, to think about making a move, because if you are thinking of overtaking, you have to go offline to do it, and that is where the road is even wetter, even more treacherous as the leaders come now down through Britain's chicane. Left, right, left again, bit of opposite lock applied there for the Sebastian Alvarez driven high-tech entry, which is working its way up the order actually. So Alvarez here is making progress. He is ahead now of Jonathan Brown, who's dropped behind Brandon Oxley as well. So the Hill Speed car is struggling, and now spins. Jonathan Brown goes, or half spin at least, back onto the triangle of grass on the inside of Hislop's. But I fear he wasn't having a happy race anyway. He gets going again now, just ahead of Bryce Aaron, who is trying to pick up places once more after his travails off the start. But it is one of those races where if you keep out of trouble, you're on for a good result. And Roman Bielinski, now about the only man in the race that's got a proper view of anything. He leads the pack down through Lodge Corner then. He's back on the power now as he makes that climb once again up through Deer Leap. Over the timing line he will go as Zach O'Sullivan chips away here at Javier Sagrera. 7th and 8th they run as the leaders round Old Hall Corner. Bielinski, Grundtvig, then Oxley up to 3rd. Alvarez up to 4th. Lubin 5th. Sagrera now 6th. O'Sullivan is up to 7th with that spin for Jonathan Brown. And did Jonathan get over the timing line? He did, but struggling on. Fastest lap of the race, Bart Horston, a 1 minute 45. Best lap of the earlier race was 1 minute 31, so that gives you an idea, 14 seconds slower, of just how much. The track conditions have changed and way off the racetrack. There goes Sebastian Alvarez. way off the racetrack. There goes Sebastian Alvarez, and eventually finds his way back towards something that looks a little bit like a race circuit. Go back into the mid-1980s, there was a big arc cut through that grass, and it was the rallycross circuit. He almost got that far, so Sebastian Alvarez rejoins the circuit and battles on. Let's see how he got there. So he comes down towards Cascades, and yeah, just completely lost traction. Actually, he did a very good job to save that. He didn't fight the car, he let it run its own trajectory rather than try and hustle it in and risk a spin. Yes, he lost places, but he's still in the race. I suspect that would have done the underside of the car a huge amount of good. It'll rattle his fillings a bit as well, but he's in the race still as Tom Leben clouts the curb there, coming down into his lops. Currently on lap number 4. Clock ticks on down. We've got 13 minutes or 10 laps to go. That's Bryce Aaron, the American driver, who came here last year as part of the Team USA scholarship for Formula Ford racing. And Bart Halston at the back of the pack playing catch-up. 2 fastest laps of the race in a row now, but obviously a long way down in terms of time on what we had in the dry this morning. Through goes Roberto Faria then in 13th place. Roberto Faria. And the race leader is already down at Old Hall Corner as you look at the mid-pack heading into Lodge there. Bryce Aaron is under attack. Faria looks to the inside line. But the Fortec car up against the Carlin entry, nose to tail, heading up Deer Leap now. Roberto Faria is like sitting in a power shower. This just sits in that wall of spray. Look, you can barely see anything through that. Down towards Old Hall, Faria makes a look to the inside line, partly to get some visibility, partly to try and outfox Bryce Aaron, but to no avail. But yeah, the spray just hangs in the air at the moment, and that makes life very, very difficult for everybody. That said, apart from Luke Browning in the pits with a bit of damage, everybody's still circulating. So they're doing a good job of staying out on track as they now once more work their way up around the left of Island Bend into the right at Shell, and a slide from Alvarez there. That forces him out wide. Zach O'Sullivan is currently on course for the championship because he is looking at scoring 18 points more than Christian Mansell. But Mansell, in fairness, is going forward, and his next target, Rima Jafari, he should be able to get past her. So O'Sullivan's championship hopes partly dependent on Christian Mansell, but equally Zach O'Sullivan has not done yet. Look, because here he's the 4th of this in the queue, so there are more places to be gained before the very end. O'Sullivan powers uphill. And then up towards Druids once more. So the race leaders currently split by 3.6 seconds as Roman Bielinski, with the visibility, gets away, builds that gap all the time. To the line, 4 seconds to the good. Now there is Javier Sagrera. He is the next target for Zach O'Sullivan then, who, just as his opposition is gaining ground, so he needs to gain more as well to try and push this out of everybody else's reach. Out of Old Hall. This is the battle pack now for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th places as they plunge downhill. Currently we're on lap number 6. We've got 10.5 minutes or 8 laps to go. Got a feeling it might be heading more towards the clock, this, but we will see as Roman Bielinski continues to hold sway up front. Now, as far as the chasing pack is concerned, it's looking pretty good, this, for O'Sullivan and to a lesser degree Sagrera, because they've got the pace to, I would have thought, get up with the likes of Frederick Lubin. But as the field once more turns up now through the approach to Britons, in the spray is Sagrera, and you can see now that Lubin is having to go defensive. So Sagrera has got the speed. He's starting now to have to think about what O'Sullivan is up to. So those cars accelerate their way down towards his lot. So Sullivan pulls out and has a look. Further back, Bart Halston on the back there of Rima Jafali's car. That suggests that Christian Mansell has already got through. And Mansell needs to keep on scoring places and points as Tom Leben comes under attack there. That is from Ayrton Simmons, and that's the fight for 7th and 8th places as the cars once again accelerate their way now up towards Druids. In fact, O'Sullivan on this lap has just dropped back a little. So through they turn, lap number 6, race leading gap still hovering around that 4-second mark. And still, track conditions far from ideal. So that is change for the inside line, because Alvarez tries to get his place back from Sagrera, but Javier Sagrera, having already gone round on the outside line, is in no mood to give the place back. So as the cars turn their way once again down towards Cascades, Alvarez is going backwards, O'Sullivan up the inside line. Should be another place to be gained here. Can't quite do it. So Javier Sagrera and also Frederick Lubin, in fairness, pushing forward. We've got a yellow flag being waved down at Old Hall Corner, and that's the reason why it's Rima Jafali that's off the road, quite spectacularly. And she ain't going to come back from that, I wouldn't have thought. So Rima Jafali is off the circuit. Christian Mansell was up to 13th anyway. Bart Horston will gain a place. So Rima Jafali, I'm afraid, who's had a bit of a checkered old season, out of the race, out of the car. The Saudi Arabian racer clambers out. Now, is that going to be able to stay there, or are we going to need a safety car to get that out of the way? That really is the first casualty by way of an accident. As you see there, Frederick Lubin coming under a bit of attack from Javier Sagrera. Down they come towards the Hislop chicane. To the outside line of Levin. Tries to go at Simmons. No way through. Levin sideways, back on the power. Up towards Hislops, and then Knickerbrook Corner they go. Still those yellow flags show at Old Hall Corner, which is going to be the first corner onto the next lap, to which the leaders will dive. Unsighted at the incident, and let's see how she got there. So Bart Horston to the inside, Bart through, yes, and Rima Jafali just ran wide onto the curb where there's very, very little traction, slides across the road and bang. Actually, it's not that big an impact, but it's enough to put that car across the grass, and when it's wet grass like this, you ain't going to drive across that. As there, flinging the car into Old Hall, Mikkel Grundtvig, as he chases after Roman Bielinski. Bielinski, fastest lap of the race. He's now at 5.9 seconds to the good as they start lap number 8. And behind it's Grundtvig and then Lubin running in second and third places. Sagrera fourth, Alvarez fifth. Now O'Sullivan is still stuck. He's down in sixth place. He's not yet cleared the Mexican driver, and there he is, Sebastian Alvarez at the head of that little queue. So Alvarez, who had his grassy moment earlier on, has recovered pretty well from that. He's keeping O'Sullivan at bay as Roman Bielinski, lest we forget, dominates up front. Here he is, fastest lap of the race done last time. Paddles his way out of the Britain's chicane. Of course, this configuration of Oulton Park new to him, because it's the shorter version that he has raced on in the past in F4 or Ginetta Juniors. And we're going to hit the clock here rather than the number of laps. So we've got 6.5 minutes to go. You'll see at the top there, the graphic changes from the numbers of laps counting down to the time counting down. And so down to Hislops comes Sagrera, and he's inching up onto the back of Frederick Lubin. That's for third and fourth places. And away goes Rhys Ushijima, who has had a pit stop. So Ushijima, double winner at Silverstone back in June. He's had a difficult season thereafter, actually. It's just never gelled in the same way that it did that day, and he's fallen further and further down within the championship standings. So with 6 minutes on the clock and a flying lap at the moment at 1:44, how many more laps can we squeeze out of this race? Well, there going through is Zach O'Sullivan, still stuck in his sixth place then as the cars come up towards the end of lap number 8. Wide goes Alvarez. Does that give O'Sullivan a chance to challenge on the run out of Deer Leap? Let's see. The move for Old Hall Corner has got to start here. Yellows have been withdrawn, so that is an overtaking opportunity if you can find the traction, because again, to make any sort of a pass, you've got to go offline to do it. And O'Sullivan stays in the wheel tracks. Now, he is running 6th, Christian Mansell 13th. That should be enough, provisional crude maths would suggest, for Zach O'Sullivan to take the title on the evidence of this, which would be a very good way to end what's been a pretty tough weekend for him. He crashed out of race 2, made a move that seemed like he was never going to be lulled into making on the outside at Hislops, and just ran out of road and across the grass and into the tyres. Well, here, even if he doesn't make up any other places, and Christian Mansell doesn't, the championship is his, but if Mansell starts gaining, he needs to look to his laurels a little bit. So right now, Zach O'Sullivan heads up towards the right-hander of Shell. Turns through the right-hander. Bryce Aaron coming under attack a little bit further down from teammate Christian Mansell. So there, the dark blue and orangey red liveried Carlin entry is the one to monitor to see if it can gain further places to keep alive Christian Mansell's championship hopes. He's coming up to his teammate, but of course it's every man for himself in this style of racing. Certainly Bryce Aaron's not going to be told to get out of the way and sacrifice his own results. So that means that Christian Mansell is going to do the hard yards, and Bryce Aaron gets all sideways into Knickerbrook. That should really have opened the door for Christian Mansell, but he couldn't do it. Tried one side, tries the other, And again, he's got the problem of being on that slippy surface. There's no real grip advantage, that is for sure. Goes to the outside line at Druids. That's brave stuff if it works, and it's going to work for him. Right round the outside goes Christian Mansell. Place gained. Through he goes. So Christian Mansell does go through, does pick up the place. Now, how is that going to affect things as far as the championship is concerned? Because now we've got Zach O'Sullivan 6th. We're going to have Christian Mansell 12th as he comes across the line. So he needs to be scoring 17 points more than Christian Mansell does. Zach, and down through Old Hall Corner they come. 3.5 minutes still to go. There's going to be one more lap at the end of this, I would offer. Down towards the left-hander of Cascades goes 68, that's Brandon Oxley. He's dropped away a little bit, having been running well early on. He's down in 10th spot now, so he accelerates along Lakeside straight. And Roberto Faria pulls out and has a look and then pulls back in again. 10th and 11th they are, diving into Island Bend this time. Up towards the right at Shell. Loop through the corner and then back onto the power. Faria has got the speed, certainly. Mansell on the back here of Faria, so he's gaining places all the time. Can he gain any more before the end? Faria looks to the inside of Oxley. In the background, Bryce Aaron coming under attack from Horston. Up through the right of Knickerbrook Corner, you see Bryce Aaron's car with the understeer that he's got. He tries to turn in, but it just washes out wide. Finally, it bites. And up towards Druids. Mansell still hunting for places. O'Sullivan has peaked a bit in 6th. Now, is he being told by the team what's going on for the opposition, for Christian Mansell? So Zach O'Sullivan goes through Old Hall Corner. Now, with Mansell's recent gain, he has got to gain a place. So Mansell's on course to score 4 points, O'Sullivan 20, and he's got to be 17 ahead, not 16. So, in other words, one more place for Zach O'Sullivan would certainly help, because he'll get championship points and the bonus point. So he's got to get on with this now if he wants to win the championship, and he's going to get one more lap out of it at most. Down through the left of Lakeside, and then Island Bend up towards Shell Oil's corner. So, ahead of him, you can see Sebastian Alvarez, and Zach O'Sullivan now, I think, has got the message, because there's a little bit more urgency in the way that he's driving as they loop up through Shell, and now on towards the right-left flick coming into Britain's. In fact, behind Zach O'Sullivan, there's Ed Simmons, who was most people's tip for the title at the start of the year. There he is, and he's still hunting along for a place as well. But up front, Roman Bielinski, because of the size of his gap, is going to get one more lap out of the race, and that's going to help, in a sense, O'Sullivan, because that means that he also will have another lap in which to try to gain that place. Christian Mansell, in the meantime, is still pushing forward as well. The race leaders accelerate down towards the Hislop chicane, then into Knickerbrook Corner once again. So that's Christian Mansell in the blue colours. Onto his last lap has just gone. Or will come in a moment, I should say, Roman Bielinski, because as he's about to come out of D Elite, there's less than a lap time left in the race. He will go through. It's a set number of laps or 20 minutes, depending on which comes first. And Bielinski goes through with less than a lap in terms of the time left. And the last lap that he did was the fastest as well, so still pushing on. Mikkel Grundvig is second. Grundvig has done a good job of hanging on to that place, actually, because quite often he gets mugged in these reverse grid races. Frederick Lubin runs third ahead of Sagrera, then Alvarez, and then Zach O'Sullivan. And the margin 0.3 of a second as they round Old Hall Corner. There they are. So the blue car of O'Sullivan is the one to watch. One more place equals the championship. Pulls out, has a look, trying to unsettle Alvarez. He's been off the road before. Is he going to go off the road on this last lap and gift wrap the title to O'Sullivan? The clock is about to hit 0, which confirms we're on the last lap. Send them with the flag this time. But no opportunity to make a move there on the inside line going into Island Bend. So Sebastian Alvarez hanging onto the position, and that therefore means that the championship will go down to the first of the 3 races at Donington Park at the next meeting in October. Up towards the chicane now comes number 12, Alvarez into Britain's. O'Sullivan has been caught by Simmons. Look, and if anything, Zach might lose rather than gain here. So all of a sudden, his game plan has got to change, hasn't it? Because the battle that he's in is for position, but it's his, not for one to gain. Down into Hislops comes Alvarez, comes O'Sullivan, comes Simmons, right, left, and then right into Knickerbrook. They will turn. And that's the run with a touch of understeer from Ayrton Simmons' car up towards Druids for the last time, but the checkered flag is being made ready, and it is being made ready for Roman Bielinski, who is on target for a third win of the season. Down he comes through Lodge Corner. There is Roman Bielinski, checkered flag at the ready, a third victory of the season and a very impressive drive too. Roman Bielinski absolutely dominates a wet race 3 for GB3 at Oulton Park. And then you wait, because Mikkel Grundtvig is some way back. He's going to be second then, 8 seconds adrift. Frederick Lubin is going to take third. And then fourth, Javier Sagrera. Fifth will be Sebastian Alvarez, just fending off the challenge of Zach O'Sullivan. And then to round out the top 6, Zach O'Sullivan with Ayrton Simmons 7th. Tom Leben is going to be 8th, is he? He is. And then next in the queue for 9th place, Jonathan Brown. 10th, Roberto Faria. So Jonathan Brown 9th after his spin, so he got away with that. But the Carlin drivers and Carlin engineers have had another good race in terms of points, but not quite the result for the championship. But for Roman Bielinski, another very impressive drive there. The Arden Motorsport car fending off everybody, coming through victorious. And Roman Bielinski, the winner in the end, as I say, by over 8 seconds. Christian Mansell's 11th place forces things to the final meeting at Donington Park. So, with the race going to time rather than to laps, it is Roman Bielinski who takes victory from Mikkel Grundtvig, and then Frederick Lubin coming home in 3rd place. Javier Sagrera finishes 4th ahead of Sebastian Alvarez, and Zach O'Sullivan denied the chance to take the championship, but he's 6th ahead of Ayrton Simmons and then Tom Leben, with Jonathan Brown taking 9th and Roberto Faria rounding out the top 10. 11th for Christian Mansell, so that keeps his championship hopes alive. 12th goes to Brandon Oxley ahead of Bryce Aaron, who started on the front row of the grid. Bart Halston ends up in penultimate place, delayed after a pit stop was Rhys Ushijima. We lost Rima Jafali, and we also lost from the race Luke Browning after an incident right at the very start. So frustration for a couple of drivers, frustration in a way for Zach O'Sullivan. Yeah, it's more points, takes him closer to the championship, but it doesn't give him the championship. Another look back at what happened in that race on the wet road, and a bad start from Bryce Aaron. That was his undoing right from the word go. Everybody else surged down toward Old Hall Corner, and it was Mikkel Grundtvig that had the opportunity to take the lead. He did, but Roman Bielinski, brave stuff, round the outside line, trying to make the move stick as they came down towards Cascades, because the road then came to him on the inside, and he had indeed got the advantage as they wriggled their way around Shell for the first time. Jonathan Brown, the former Formula Ford Festival victor, dropping down the order, and that was what happened to Christian Mansell at the end of the opening lap. So he dropped a whole load of places. Bart Halston had his spin already coming out of Shell, and it cost him a lot of time in getting going again. So both of the Australians in strife. Luke Browning, the race 2 winner, was also in trouble, and he was an early retirement as well. Then a spin for Jonathan Brown coming out of his lops. He got going again, and in the end brought that car home into 9th place. Sebastian Alvarez had this wild ride coming out of Cascades, which oh so nearly did for him, but he battled on and came home 5th, and he was under a lot of pressure for the bulk of the race as well. Christian Mansell charged his way back into contention, picking off place after place, but he eventually just ran out of time, as Tom Leben had to try to fend off Ayrton Simmons, and Simmons indeed would find a way up and past him before the end of the race. We lost Rima Jafali after she was overtaken by Bart Halston. Rima Jafali spinning out of Old Hall Corner and clipping the barrier on the exit into the Ardencote. It meant that as Zach O'Sullivan chased after Sebastian Alvarez, there was a race win coming for Roman Bielinski, his 3rd of the season, as Christian Mansell had a brave pass round the outside of Bryce Aaron, and therefore Christian Mansell keeping alive his championship hopes. Slim they might be, but they are still fighting for the championship. So Roman Bielinski, race winner. Zach O'Sullivan gets closer to the title, but he's not quite there yet. That'll go down to Donington. And a good drive by Roman Bielinski, absolutely mastering horrible conditions here at a rather soggy Oulton Park. So well done to Roman Bielinski, race winner for the 3rd time this season. The story in GB3 continues at Donington next month, but for now, from a wet Oulton Park and David Addison, it's goodbye.